And today our discussion is not about you, human. It's about animals. It's about these guys. How these guys, the animal, they found a way to do it in the easy way. Because you can do it in the hard way to find food. You can do it in the hard way to survive. You can do it in the hard way to attract the female. You can do it in the hard way to be the leader in your group. But there are tricks. There are ways to do shortcuts. There are ways to manipulate the system. And our discussion today about how these guys, they do it. But before we start with that, some of you is asking a very interesting questions. These guys, do they have mind? Do they think? Do they have brains? Do they have ability to decide what kind of deception they are going to use in which situation and how they can change their designs? Do they have the ability to do that or not? So let's start with this discussion. These guys, can they think? What do you think? Can they think? Do they have brain? What kind of brain? Someone will say, these guys that we are thinking, they have brain and they are thinking, we call them, they have what we call it bird brain. What's the meaning bird brain? Is not so much smart. We believe that for us as a human, our brain is much better than all the other animals. And these birds, they don't have so much brain. But they discover something shocking. They discover that birds, they have very sometimes high IQ. Birds, you can actually teach them certain skills and they will memorize. Do you remember these birds where they fly with messages all over the world? Do you remember these birds, they be able to repeat certain phrases, right? They have the skills. But what they are lacking the teacher. They discover animals, they are like kids. If you bring the animal and you teach the animal to do tricks, which is, what is this color? What is this name? What is that? What is this? How can you change? How can you manipulate? How can you actually figure out certain things? They will create these actually learning inside their brain and they are going to use them when you are going to ask them again. And this happened with a parrot called Alex. Alex is a parrot that was, got a very interesting training by the trainer to recognize colors, to speak words, to be able to do so many things that no one thought a bird mind can do. In the old days, we thought that we can teach an animal a trick. We can teach the dog trick, and they will do it because it's a trick. We just give them certain condition, and we can condition their behavior to do it. They discover, no. These guys, they can use their brain, and they can create certain connections, and in that way, they can retrieve information in a smart way. It's not only conditioning. So let's examine and do study related to brain. We discover that we have brains and they have brains. So the question here, what is the difference between their brain and our brain? They did a study related to brain to understand why our brain is different than their brain. Look what they did with the study. Very interesting study. The study said, we need to understand how human brain are compared to animal brain. So they said, the first thing, let's look in the study about the size. Is the size important? So they say, to look at the size, we need to look at something called body to brain size. To see, because why? If you just look at the size, you can see some animals, they have big brain, some animals, they have small brain. They say the brain is related to the size of the body because it will regulate how your body is using your brain. So they discover a human, they have good ratio related to body to brain. But they discover that actually, do we care about the size? The answer, not really. We don't actually care about the size. What we care about more, we care about the neuron connections inside our brain. So they did a study. They said, let's see the neuron connection in our brain. They said, well, if we look at them, it looks like, the elephant, he got more neuron connections. Why? Why they got so much? Because elephants can walk in the jungle and they can go for a long walk and understand exactly how to come back. They can actually memorize the road that they are going in the jungle. Interesting. They have very good memory. They have so much connections. So they need to understand, if it's not the size, if it's not how neurons are connected in our brains. Do you know how many neurons we have in our brain? They did a study. They discovered we have more than 68 billion neurons connections. They say it's about what? They say it's about our ability to connect the information inside our brain to come up with a cognitive understanding of the world. So, in another word, it's our ability to understand. We have language to communicate. We have language to communicate, and we can communicate with other individuals with different language. We figure out a way to do it. We have a way for us to understand the world around us and ensure we are not going to work day and night to get food because someone else is doing the food and we are doing something to learn about the world. So we, over the last couple of millions of years, we created certain skills that allow us to be, the leaders in the nature, which is interesting. Our brain got the ability to be able to think and think about what others are thinking and think about how to manipulate how others are thinking. And we thought we are special, but actually they discovered that animals, they have the same ability, but at lower level. It's not as advanced as us, but they have this ability. So they discover at the end, what is it? It's about the cognitive ability to be able to have, the thinking inside our brain and come up with a conclusion. So let's start with the first thing. When we are speaking about, learning, we are speaking about kids. Take your kid and take your kid to the jungle rather than taking him to a school and see how he will learn so many of the animal tricks to be able to survive in the jungle. Because what's happening in the jungle, these guys, they are creating all these deceptions for two reasons. Why? Why they are doing it? What do you think the two reasons are? To survive and to strive. So to survive, what's the meaning to survive? They want to make sure no one will eat them. So they find a way to deceive all the animals that they are going to eat them. And they need a way for them to eat. So they deceive all the animals that they are going to eat. So they can actually survive. But these individuals who will do what I discussed, do you know who are they? They are the spiders. What's the meaning? They are living in an individual environment. They are the panda. These individuals, they don't live in groups. They live in an isolated environment where they are just trying to eat and avoid being eaten. They are not interested in interacting with other animals in the same group to be able to strive. What's the meaning of it? They have no group to control to be the leader. They are not interested in building a family when they have a female coming and they are actually, building a family. They are not interested in that. They are interested in just being able to survive the day, which is completely different skills. They say human is a social animal. What's the meaning social animal? We are operating in the society, and our ability to move on in the society is not about getting money. Money is good. But without ability to control your social group, being able to deceive them, being able to understand how to please them, you will not survive. You say, yeah, is this deception? Kind of. Imagine you go to work and your boss is wearing a very nice sweater, but you don't like it. You don't believe it's nice. He will ask you, how was the sweater? Nice? You say, oh, amazing. Where did you buy it? I want to buy one. You are trying to please your social group to ensure you will survive and thrive in that social group because it's important. You don't want to be direct and honest because you may lose. The same thing animals, the minute they are moving from living in an individual life to living in social group, they understand the social group structure. And they understand, am I the leader and I need to trick others so I will stay the leader? Or am I, low level and I need to be able to trick the leader so in that way I can take advantage of the situation? Should I trick someone else in the group to be able to take advantage today, or should I wait and please him to take advantage in the future? Do they think this way? Yes. And I'm going to show you so many videos of how they do that. It's a very interesting technique. First, Before we go over that, let's see what kind of skills they have. If you do IQ test, who is one of the animals that they will have very high score in IQ test? They discover this guy, raccoon. They say raccoons are so good and they are so smart and they can unlock a lock. They can go to your house and you have a lock and they are going to work on it and they are going to learn how to break it. They say raccoons, they can solve puzzles. If you teach a raccoon how to solve a puzzle, they say they can memorize it for a long time. Sometimes they say it will go to 3 years to memorize it, and you give them the same puzzle, they will solve it. They said even raccoons is able to solve puzzle. We as a human, it's hard for us to solve. They have high level of intelligence. This is why if you are living around an area where there's a raccoon, he is going to be inside your house stealing everything in one way or another. Whatever you do to close your house, he's going to find a way to break it. He's going to try until they do it. And do you know what's special about the raccoon? They have ability to hear the worm walking on the floor. The worm. So if you come close, far away from your house, he's going to run away. Which is interesting. He got certain skills and certain abilities. Very nice. Now, when we see these animals, why they do deception? Because they want to understand how they can survive in these social groups and have controls over these social groups. Now, sometimes when we are speaking about social groups, we are not speaking about the same group of animals that they are in. Maybe they are fighting against other animals. Maybe they want to manipulate the situation. So when they did test to understand who is out of the birds, they do very interesting deception. They discover that blue jay is very good in doing deception. By what? By imitating the sound of a hawk. He learned how hawk is actually causing a sound to make all the birds run away. So he will go and he will see food where birds are eating. So in that way he will make the same sound of a hawk. Everyone will think a hawk is coming. They run away and he will go and enjoy the food for himself. Do you remember this case happened in real life? You remember the case or you don't remember the case? This is a case happened in one country where thieves, they were trying to steal the bank. One guy learned about their tricks. So what he did, he came wearing like a police officer and he said, police officer, all of them, they run away. He took the money and he moved on. The same technique as a human we applied. See, this is how nature, they do the techniques. Very interesting.